big move afoot here locally in Oregon, and I suspect around the country, about only using evidence-based practices. Okay, that's great. Now, where can I go anywhere to find what are those for geriatric mental health? Well, they don't exist. Yeah, you can find references to certain aspects of the service, but really there's nothing definitive, nothing written down. Here's the book on evidence-based practices. And once again, it's been a few years, but some folks around in Oregon and I got together to write some evidence-based practices, but as the funding broke down, yeah, so did that effort. And so now I hire someone, I have interns all the time, and the training guidelines and the evidence-based practices are mine. I hope they're good ones. I think they are, but I set the guidelines. I'm delivering to the students, to the interns, to new employees what I believe to be the important aspects that they need to know to learn, and how much, when, and all that, and how to deliver it. It would be a really good plan if there was some level of standardization of that, because with some cultural differences, seniors are basically the same all over the country. And so it's necessary to have some guidelines, and I don't see any effort afoot now to create those. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal to do. We just need some heads together to create that sort of. How have we gotten to this state of lack of geriatric mental health training? It's been suggested that, well, there's so many seniors out there now, and oh my gosh, there's so many coming, that we're just overwhelmed. Well, we're not overwhelmed yet, but by golly, we're sure going to be if we don't get it together fast. Already, I'm seeing the cusp of the baby boomers that haven't been healthy for genetic reasons, the ones that have been smoking dope for 40 years. They're arriving into the mental health system now, and they're old, very old, and they're needing mental health services, and that's the really serious tip of the iceberg, because the numbers alone, I don't think there's going to be a larger percentage of the population that needs mental health services, but just if the percentage stays the same, that's a serious number of people, and nobody's getting trained, and I don't think Oregon is indicative of serious issues that aren't there in the rest of the country. Yes, I would agree some places are probably better, but what's happened? It's multi-level. Funding is always mentioned, and it's a major thing, but the funding, it's kind of who gets a piece of the pie and how much, and that's been a battle of mine and others on the legislative level for many years, and we've been pretty unsuccessful really in making things happen. I was part of an effort about 8 or 10 years ago. We got a law written into the Oregon statutes that every county mental health agency had to have a trained geriatric mental health specialist, not just one that was designated as such, but a trained one. And it went nowhere. It's not enforced. It's not done. There's about 3 counties now that have a trained geriatric mental health specialist, and that's pretty sad. And so people at the top, and by the top I mean both on the legislative level, the admin level of the state, and as well as on the county level, to not deal with geriatric mental health because of its complexity, as I've mentioned before, the fact that it's almost never reimbursed, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But also, some counties, got radically different issues than others, such as, the counties with the big cities. They do, in fact, have to spend a lot more money on street level issues, okay? And I understand that. But, who gets the pie and is a big piece, and the decisions made, there's really not a value in serving seniors, who I would consider are certainly among the most vulnerable people in our population. I've worked in this county for 20 years, and from the very beginning, one of the things I've focused on and worked hard at was trying to create an accepted philosophy that we are a community that takes care of our seniors. And I like to think I've been somewhat successful because we are still one of the few counties that have a geriatric mental health program. And so that's great. However, I think it's only that philosophy that keeps my program afloat because we don't get reimbursed. Medicare is part of our indigent funding because we're all certified Medicare providers and we do all the billing and we know we do it correctly because the Medicare folks tell us we do. They simply don't send us a check. They just don't. And how they can get away with that or why they do it, I'm not sure. And even if they did, it does the reimbursement level is so low that it does not cover my pitiful salary. And so that's a problem too. From the federal level on down, there has to be this philosophical and therefore economic buy-in that this is an important issue. And here's the big thing about the funding is that we pay. What I just said that we don't pay, that's right, but the fact is we pay. We just pay more expensive and in different ways than in the ways that we could pay to really address these issues. Because seniors as a group are the single most expensive medically group out there. And amongst the seniors, the mentally ill seniors are the most expensive group within them. And to not address that, well, we pay because they show up at the ER, which is very expensive. They get all kinds of unnecessary medical care because they're in the office. They're a depressed little old lady complaining about I hurt here, I hurt there, but really they hurt right here. And that's not noticed, it's not addressed, and that's cheap to deal with versus MRIs and medications and all this other sorts of things. So we do pay. We just got to be smarter about where we're going to pay. Let's pay cheaply and effectively as opposed to ineffectively and seriously more expensive than the way we're doing it now. And so, that alone, I think, even just your strict number cruncher can make a big argument for, creating geriatric mental health training in this country and delivering it effectively and more or less seamlessly with the medical community. Because I can tell you, another thing I worked hard at is to get the doctors to essentially respect and play ball with us. And I've been successful in that. We got a lot of doctors that we work with, and I tell you, they just are absolutely so thankful for having folks like me around because it takes a big burden off of them, and I deal with the issues that need to be dealt with. And quite frankly, I have an extreme advantage over the family care practitioner. They see somebody in their office, some older person who's got pains and maybe doesn't speak well for themselves because that's a culture that really doesn't want to deliver bad news to the doctor. He gets 7 minutes. Here, doc. Here's my problem. Give me a drug. I want to get out of here. I go see him. I deal with them for a couple hours. I talk to them about all aspects of their life, including medical. I talk to the nurse, the family members, their kids. I get to read the doctor's reports. Putting it all together, and I can't tell you how many times when I do that, the problem is glaring. I mean, it's just no, it's constipation or untreated pain or something like that that's causing this agitation and behavioral problems, say, in a nursing home. And it's because I read everything.